excluding accident, of course, right? And they are within our control. Smoking, unhealthy eating, alcohol, sedentary lifestyle, stress, obesity, blood cholesterol, hypertension, diabetes. These are things that we can manage, is within our control about our lifestyle choices. Can we resist that plate of char kway teow? Do we want to stay sedentary, stay at home and, watch series after series of Korean drama instead of engaging in some physical activity? Right, so we make our, it's within, is for us to take that step to embark on this fitness regime and be committed. Right, like myself, already in my 50s, I still keep track of my active engagement, my active time every week, like how many K I swim, how many K I bike, how many K I run, and I clock my step as well. And I set goal for myself as well. But so again, as you age, you really need to put in that conscientious effort to do that. Set some realistic goals for yourself. Right. So later we'll talk about that more in detail. And then other health risks. 1 in 5 Singaporean has got high blood pressure. 1 in 6 high blood cholesterol. 1 in 7 smokes. And then look at our obesity and overweight as well. Right. So our health statistics, they are not very favorable. And as such, that explains the gap between our healthy lifespan and our life expectancy, a 10-year difference. Right. So we need to narrow this gap. And to narrow this gap, we need to get the whole nation to embark on this healthier SG initiative, a health regime for everyone to take charge of their own health. Right. So we just celebrated the World Diabetes Day on the 14th of November. Right. And there was a lot of information that was shared about diabetes. Right. And at one time we were ranked number 2 after US for the highest number of diabetic. And Minister also mentioned if nothing is done by 2050, it is estimated that 1 million Singaporeans will be living with diabetes. And it's also very worrying. We are seeing an increase of the younger working population. The number of diabetic has increased by threefold. Right, so it's really a wake-up call for us to also look at what we eat, because we are what we eat. Right, less salt, less sugar. A lot of health promotion campaign from Health Promotion Board. Right, so later we'll talk about that as well. But if you look at diabetes type 1 and type 2, and if you look at type 2 again, they are broadly related to the lifestyle choices that is within our control. Right. I thought I would set some context first before we go into the sports science part of things. All right. So do bear with me. Yeah. And on white paper, there's the white paper, and it's shared on our vision of a healthier SG. And this white paper outlines the action to be taken about investing in healthcare system, support individual to charge their own journey towards healthier, a better health. Right, and some of these initiatives would include things like mobile application, right? The Health Hub, for example, Healthy 365, for example. They call it the digital front door of Healthier SG. And then Healthier SG is also about getting you to stick to one family doctor, for example. So you can see the government is putting a lot of effort into Healthier SG, getting everyone to take charge of their health. Right? Oops. Yep. And again, most of you would have heard or seen it on advertisement, right? Healthier SG, very comprehensive multi-year strategies designed to empower every resident. But if you look at some of the feature, it's very much about engagement, increasing your active time, exercising, physical health, and mental health. Okay, so it's a nationwide strategies. Okay, so if you look at this slide, very simple slide, but then there's so much we can do from just following step 1 to step 6. During the pandemic, we were talking a lot on infectious disease education. We talk about COVID-19, we talk about influenza, tuberculosis, hand, foot, mouth. So at the end of the day, if you notice, the most important thing is really about your own immune system. There were a lot of questions how to build up the antibodies, how to make sure we have strong immune system so that we can protect our body. And the best way is to live a healthy lifestyle. Naturally, you will boost up your immune system, right? And there were a lot of suggestions. Oh, should I be taking apple cider? Should I be taking the immune booster? Vitamins, they even have immune booster. But I would say the best and the most natural way is to live a healthy lifestyle. The healthier you are, the stronger your immune system is. The stronger your immune system is, when any germs enters your body, your immune system will trigger your antibodies. There are soldiers in your bodies to transform into the right antibodies to eradicate the germs before the germs can do more harm to your body. Right? So it's important to live a healthy lifestyle. So later I'll go through some of these steps. But if you look at it, physical activities, very simple. It's just about moving, increasing your number of steps. HPB put it very simply here, increase your number of steps, because when you do that, you work on your cardiovascular system. And then eating is really about what you eat, right? You are what you eat. And so much talk about mental health. So I'm represented in the multi-agency task force for mental health with our Senior Minister of State, Dr. Janil. I'm also represented in another work group called the Work Group 3 under this multi-agency task force for mental health with our Minister of State, Minister Gan Seok Kwang. So you can see there are many efforts are put into addressing this topic of mental wellness, right? Because if mental wellness is not managed well, it could lead to mental disorder as well, right? So there's a very big spectrum. So a lot of people tend not to talk about their mental wellness. It's equally important, right? Being thankful, being appreciative, right? And gracious as well, for example. And then, of course, we have avoid infection, because when germs enters our body, it will trigger our immune system. We want to put our immune system into good use, right? So it's really about avoiding infection. And in the recent week, we have seen increase in the number of COVID cases. We have also seen a lot of influenza. This morning, I was listening to NBC News, and then in US and in China, there's a lot of cases of respiratory infection. Right, so it's also a call for everyone to take charge of your health, do the necessary, wear a mask when you are not well. Or if you are a caregiver, you want to protect your family, it's good to put on a mask as well. Right, and then detect early, don't smoke, because we know that Harvard also has got studies that suggest that smokers tend to have slightly lower immune system. Right, and then of course manage this condition. Okay. Now, so let's start with detect early health screening. I will give some example as I go along. For example, for myself, I shared earlier this year, I participated in 3 key events. One was a Korea event, Ironman, half Ironman in Korea, and then was Finland in August, and then again in India in October. And before the start of my intense training after Chinese New Year, I went for a health check, a thorough health check. Not just the basic health check, I even go for ECG and even go for a 2D echo just to make sure I have a clear bill of health. And for me, every year, I will still check. In fact, it was quite funny. I checked I did a basic health screening for 3 times. 3 times because some of them are free. But the reason for that is for me to monitor my cholesterol. As you age, naturally your LDL, your HDL may increase. Your HDL, the good cholesterol may reduce, and your bad cholesterol may increase. So I do keep track of it. And because I saw that one of my indicator was slightly elevated, and it was a concern for me. Did I not do anything right? Have I not been taking the right food? So I took it over 3 times just to make sure I manage it. So I strongly encourage everyone. First is really to really know your health status. It's very wrong when people say, I rather not know. After knowing, I need to see doctor, I need to take medicine. No, it's not true. The truth is, medicine and technology is so advanced in Singapore, and that's why the earlier slide we say detect early, right? Detect there's so many interventions that you can put in place, right? So for me, I will go for a regular health check just to make sure, my cardio, my health is okay before I embark in a fitness regime. And my kind of fitness regime for a 50 years old is quite intense. So the more I want to keep track of my health, the different parameter. I even went for a fitness check, just to check what is my VO2 max, just to check what is my lactic threshold. So we'll discuss that in the later slide as well. But there's so many things you can do just to make sure that you are okay before you embark on this healthy journey or embark on this fitness regime. Okay. Yeah, so very simple. I think there's a lot of campaign in the past. Know your BMI, right? There's this campaign from Health Promotion Board, know your BMI. And it's so simple, right? It's really about weight over height times height, right? And then you can check it out and see whether are you underweight or overweight, right? A BMI value of 23 and above will indicate that your weight is outside the healthy range. But then on the other hand, if you are below 18.5, that will suggest that you're underweight. Right. So for every category, it also shows you what are the health risks. Right. So these are very simple, basic things that you can check for a start as well. Right. Yeah. So there is a question. Is it advisable that we do health screening every year then? Is it necessary or 3 years is fine? So it really depends on every individual's age. For myself, and then if you go into the health hub, they will have some recommendation there. They even tell you at what age, whether male or female, what kind of vaccine you should be going. But for myself, I go for a health check every year. Especially even if I don't go for a health check every year, there are a lot of basic health check. Your lipid indicator is very important. Lipid indicator will tell you your LDL, right? Your low intensity lipo, what do you call them? The lipopathetic, is it? Right. So it's the LDL and the HDL and your triglyceride. That's very important. Triglyceride is the fats that wraps around your organ, and then your total cholesterol. So once you know that, you can take charge of your health by maybe taking the right food, for example, doing exercise, for example. So I do that every year, right? Okay, so that's the question. Now let's move on to so know your BMI, and so now let's start off with this overall fitness. I think it's so important to take charge of your health. Like I shared earlier, a lot want to get started, but don't know how to get started. So if we look at overall fitness, it involves your physical fitness and your mental health, right? Mental wellness. And physical fitness, within physical fitness, there are quite a few things to look at, but we'll talk about it later. Right. So physical fitness involves having efficient blood circulation, involves muscular strength. You need muscle to get by every day. You need to have that stamina and good balance, flexibility, for example. So that is physical fitness. And then on the other hand, important to take charge of your mental wellness as well, right? Your emotional well-being within an individual, a healthy state of mind. So it's really about self-esteem, it's about social connectivity, right? About emotional intelligence, where your resilience as well, right? And also cognitive efficacy, right? So these are the 5 dimensions that we usually talk about when we talk about mental wellness. So it's really about managing it and being happy for no reason. I call it. There's a book. It's called Happy for No Reason. It's really about just being thankful and being gracious, right? So exercise. We know exercise can help with mental health as well, and there are a lot of studies that suggested that. In fact, not me, but my classmate. They were doing a studies on that, on the effect of exercise on mental health. And it suggests things like it will release your endorphin, right? Those they call it the feel good hormones, right? And then it also reduce stress as well, because it elevates this cortisol the cortisol hormones in your body. So it will help to reduce stress, and so improve sleep and many other benefits. right? So you can see mental health and physical health actually links as well. Okay, so physical health and mental health. But now let's zoom into physical health, right? And if you look at physical health, there are three areas that we look at. One is your muscular fitness, right? Let's talk about muscular fitness first. A lot of ladies tend to be very concerned about putting muscles. That, hey, I'm a lady, I shouldn't be taking weight. But the truth is, you need to take lightweight so that you have muscles to get by. That's equally important as well. So lightweight could be lightweight with a lot of repetition. So you tone your muscles, right? Because remember I mentioned earlier, you don't use it, you will lose it. So you need to build up some muscles as well. Equally important. And if you look at muscle, men will tend to spend a lot of time, they want to have six abs, good chest, good bicep. That's good because you have a good body structure, for example, and you have muscular fitness to get by every day. So be it male or female is equally important. But for female, it could be doing aerobic kind of endurance. You want muscular strength. But for men, tend to go for anaerobic. That means very heavy weights to bulk the muscle. Right, so it really depends on the objective, whether to tone your muscle, to build up your muscle, or to build up your muscle. So aerobic, what aerobic means is with the presence of oxygen. So with the presence of oxygen means you are taking the light weight and you are still breathing comfortably. On the other hand, anaerobic will suggest with the absence of oxygen depth. That means you won't have enough oxygen. You're holding your breath, for example. So it could be a man carrying very heavy weight and holding the breath, holding the breath and carrying very heavy weight. Or it could be Joseph Schooling swimming 50-meter butterfly and holding the breath. That's anaerobic because he's holding the breath. Maybe take one breath for the whole 50-meter of butterfly. Right, so that's anaerobic. So again, aerobic, presence of oxygen. Anaerobic means holding your breath or oxygen depth. So for there are exercise classes. Sometimes you notice in the exercise class, the instructor will, we are doing a lot of aerobics, dance, Zumba, Pilates, or and sometimes the instructor will say, okay, for the next 30 seconds or for the next 1 minute, you're going to run very fast. That's anaerobic, to increase your intensity, to increase your level until you're almost out of breath, right? So they all have their benefits, and we'll talk about that later. So that's muscular fitness, skeletal fitness. So guys, I must confess, I tend not to stretch as much. The truth is, it's very important to stretch every day as well, right? Our skeletal system consists of 206 bones. Right, and then this whole network contains tendons, ligament, your cartilage, for example, and they connect to form your skeletal fitness, your frame. It carries your organs, it protects your organs, and also help in production of blood cell as well. Right, so it's very important to take charge of your skeletal fitness, your skeletal strength, right? Because as we age, your range of motion will get shorter and shorter. Your range of motion can get shorter and shorter. I repeat that. So it's very important for us to constantly stretch, right? So we want to make sure we can have the full range of motion, right? And it's quite sad. When my mom was around, I also noticed that she will just sit there and watch Korean drama very often. So much so that her posture over time is quite hunched. So it's always like trying to encourage her to come on, stand up, do some stretching. It's important because as we age, our range of motion gets shorter and shorter. Right, so ladies, and skeletal fitness is important as well because of osteoporosis. Right, so a lot of ladies tend to go for Pilates, yoga, and myself, I take part in that as well. In fact, I just signed up for a Pilates class, and I think it's so important for both skeletal fitness and muscular fitness. Right, but the most important, my personal opinion, the most important would be your cardiovascular fitness because your heart and lung is the engine of your body. Right, so the most important is still your cardiovascular fitness, how your heart and your lung work together. Okay. Now let's look at let me see if there's any question. Okay. All right. So cardio is your heart, and vascular is your blood vessel, right? And let me. Oh, yeah. So the heart is the most important muscle in your body. Your heart is the engine of your body, right? And the how your heart and your cardiovascular fitness is how your heart and your lung work together. The lung provide oxygenated blood to your heart, and your heart transform the oxygenated blood to different part of your body. Right, so that's the most important engine in your body. Right, and the thing to note is, few years ago, not few years, almost 2 decades ago, when I was still very involved in the sports scene, I have a patient at 36 years old had a heart bypass at 36 years old. And the reason for that is he spends a lot of time working on his muscular fitness. He's got he has got good muscle, good abs, but he's somebody who try not to run because he has this mindset that if I'm running too much, I'm burning my muscle away. Right. So later you will learn there's some truth to it, but we are not going to make everyone run to that level where they constantly burn their muscle. So for that individual at 36, he may have a very good body structure, very good muscle, but he has got a heart of a 1.5 liter engine. So it's like a BMW with a 1.5 liter engine, right? So it's important to look at these three areas. Are you building enough muscular fitness? About your skeletal fitness? Are you stretching enough? And your heart and your lung, are you working on your most important muscle? That's your heart. Okay. So sorry, there's a question here. Um, will our heartbeat increase as we age? So we'll talk about that later. All right. There's also charts to suggest about your heart rate. We are coming to that very soon. All right. So advantage of exercise. What is cardiovascular exercise? How to work on this most important part of your muscle. Right. So we know we have to stress your heart and your lung. But we have to stress it. That means we have to exercise to increase the function of your cardiovascular system. And when you cardiovascular will involve different parts of your muscle when you exercise, right? So, and it's important for us to prevent muscle imbalance as well. So it's really training your entire body evenly, right? It's about building strong arms, building strong legs, your back, your chest, for example. Right? So you need to make sure that it's overall fitness, not just one part of the body, right? It's about well-balanced workout as well. Okay, and then it's exercise you can sustain. So during my studies, there's also studies that suggest that you do not necessarily need to do 30 minutes of exercise. It can be about of 10, 10, 10. It still gives you the benefit. So what this means is morning you can just do like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, lunchtime another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and after dinner another 10. So it still gives you the same benefit. All right. And it has to be at least 60% of your maximum heart rate. 60%. So later we'll discuss about your the heart rate. All right. Different heart rate works on different things. Okay. Right. So benefits. I won't go through this in detail, but these are some of the benefits of cardiovascular exercises. Improve your heart and lung function, lower your blood pressure, help in your mental wellness as well because it releases feel good hormones, for example, right, and decrease risk of lifestyle diseases. And some of this exercise could be walking or brisk walking. And here I like to also stress that a lot of people tend to suggest that you only walk while you're not perspiring a lot. Are you really exercising? Okay, so the truth is you cannot take sweat as an indication of whether you exercise or not. And I hear it so often. Sometimes people running in the gym, wow, I have got puddle of sweat here. You are still dry. Are you exercising or not? That's not true. And even in the health hub, I also see later you'll see in the slide, they talk about sweat. So personally, in fact, not personally, sweat should never be an indication whether you are putting enough effort or not, because different people has got different sweat rate. So there's this thing called sweat rate. generally there are people who perspire a lot, and there are people who just don't perspire, always dry. But that doesn't mean they're not putting in enough intensity. So sweat cannot be an indication of whether you're exercising or not. And as such, even brisk walking, some people may suggest, hey, you're just walking. Are you doing enough? Are you putting enough intensity? It really depends on individual. It really depends on your goal. Whether you're burning fats, whether you're burning carbohydrates, you're building your stamina, or you're building your lactate tolerance, can take a lot of pain. Right? We'll discuss that in the later slide as well. But these are some of the cardio activity, and it is a reminder that when you do your cardio, it should involve different part of your muscle, right? So for me as a triathlete, I will use a lot of my lower body. So I make sure that I also incorporate with some activity for my upper body. For example, when I swim, I try to relax my leg by using a pull buoy, for example, so that my upper body is moving, my leg is resting. So it's really about overall fitness, looking at different part of your muscle. You just don't want to work on one part. And with that said, there are also because last time SNEF we used to do a lot of health activity at the downtown district. So ladies sometimes will also check with me for some health tips. And I noticed that there are some ladies that may always go for this particular class and this particular steps, for example. So over time, for that activity, they may build up the same muscle. They may tone the same muscle as well. So it's good to have a variety of activity, a variety of exercises that work on different part of your body. So meaning, apart from just joining the same class, the same step, try something different that works on different part of your body. All right. Sorry. Can we use our average heart rate to gauge if our physical? Yes, we are going to talk about that later. I have so basically I do a lot of studies on heart rate. So I'll be the right person to ask about heart rate. We're touching that in the next slide. All right. So, but before that, do take note. When you exercise, incorporate different activity. You don't want to do just one activity and only strain on that body part. All right. Okay, now we're going to talk about heart rate, okay? So basically, I'm going to cover 4 key areas about heart rate. Okay, and it's so important for us to know about heart rate. It's not about looking at, how much I sweat means I'm doing a lot. It's not about like, wow, my heart beat very fast means I'm going very well. No, there are a lot of signs to heart rate. And your heart rate is the blueprint of your body. Okay, so I repeat that again. Your heart rate is the blueprint of your body. And that's why when you see a doctor, the doctor will check your heart rate. If you see a TCM, the TCM not only look at your heart rate, look at your pattern. Right? And when you go for ECG, your rested ECG or your running ECG, it also tells you the pattern, your fitness level. So your heart rate is the blueprint of your body. Right. So to start off with, it's very important for everyone to take charge of your health. And what that means is know your resting heart rate. With that said, I give you an example. My resting heart rate is at 43 beat per minute. 1 minute it will beat 43 times. And this is during my competition, my peak period. Peak period means I've trained to this level. I'm going for my competition very soon. So my low season, when I'm not so active, still exercise, not so active, my heart rate can go as high as 48. So my resting heart rate will fluctuate from 43 to 48. That's my resting heart rate. The fitter I am, the lower my heart rate. What this means is when your heart rate is very strong, 1 minute my heart rate only beat 43 times, right? 43 times, and it's strong enough to pump a large volume of blood. And me being not overweight, less surface, right? So my heart only pump enough volume to send to different part of my body. But what this means also, if a person is overweight, the heart will need to pump extra hard to send blood to more parts of the body. So that's what it means, right? So it also means that we need to maintain a healthy weight, right? And the important thing to note is when your fitness improves, your heart rate will reduce. What this means is you embark on a fitness. So now maybe after this talk, you check what is your resting heart rate. And then engage in a fitness regime, engage in an exercise class, engage in a health program. And then maybe 3 months later, 4 months later, you check, you will notice that, my heart rate has reduced. And the reason for that is because your stamina has improved, your fitness has improved. One pump, your heart can pump a larger volume of blood. So your heart rate has reduced. Right? So heart rate can be a good indication whether your fitness has improved or not. Okay, I have never hit the max before. Okay, so we are coming there. I'm so excited to answer all these questions. But next, let's look at maximum heart rate. So I'll just just put it out there. I am 50 years old, past 50 years old. So take for example, if I'm 50 years old, according to the standard textbook formula, my maximum heart rate will be 220 minus 50 years old, which means my maximum heart rate should be 170. My last run was Saturday. I hit 184. I was doing some interval, that means I was doing some sprint, and it hit 184. And my maximum heart rate is 197. So what this means is I may be 50 years old, but I have a heart of a 23 years old, and that's possible. But it's not safe to do that. So I must advise everyone, the standard textbook formula for your max heart rate is 220 minus your age, right? And then so that's knowing your maximum heart rate. Okay, and then on the other hand, there are people who may not only get starters regime. It's never safe to exercise until your maximum heart rate as well. But it's important not to important to listen to your body, right? So later we'll talk about that, about maximum heart rate. So the best time to check your resting heart rate is in the morning. I have a slide on that. The best and your maximum heart rate basically when you exercise, like for example, I did an interval on Saturday. I know my maximum heart rate hit up to, it's not a spike, it has been 184 for quite a few bits. So I'll just take maximum as 184 because if I take 220 minus 50, my maximum heart rate is 170. Maximum heart rate is 170, but I know I can go up to 184, then I will be under training, right? What about heart rate and blood pressure for elderly? Is there a certain range for both? Yeah, so your systolic heart rate and your diastolic heart rate, and your maximum heart rate is that the reason why we put it in the blood pressure monitor is because it does correlate to what but it also depend on your cholesterol level, for example, and there are many other parameters as well. But it's good to take note of your systolic, your diastolic, and at the same time your resting heart rate and your heart rate as well, right? So there is a range, right? And I know for your heart rate, for your blood pressure, we know the systolic and diastolic 120 and 110, 120, 70 or 80, right? That's your systolic and diastolic. But for your resting heart rate, there's also a chart. Unfortunately, I haven't got the chart here, but later you can also Google at what age, male, female, what should be your resting heart rate. If your resting heart rate is at 44, are you athlete or are you elite or are you average? So there are charts for that as well. Okay. Now, so for maximum heart rate, again, the same formula is 220 minus your age. But if you want to find out your real max, if you're somebody who are very seasoned, have been doing exercise, then it's good to run round the track at your max. Of course, with friends around or even sports physiology around, just to make sure that you're safe. And you clock what is your max heart rate using your heart rate monitor, right? And then once you know your maximum heart rate, that's where you can work, you can train and exercise more objectively. But more objectively, meaning we know that there are so many charts out there that suggest fat burning is the first source. 50 to 70, you're burning fats. And then 70 to 90, you're burning carbohydrates. Fat burning, carbohydrate burning, and then protein muscle, where it starts to go into your muscle to tap on the energy. That's where you start to build up lactate. You start to feel very sore, right? So that's the buildup of lactic acid. But and then recovery heart rate, the fitter you are, the faster you recover. All right, so heart rate concept will involve this four. We'll dive deeper into this in the next slide. Right. So calculating target heart rate. Why is it important to calculate your target heart rate? So first is we know about our resting heart rate. Second is about knowing your maximum heart rate. Third is about your target heart rate. It's so important to know what is your target heart rate, because at the end of the day, when you exercise, you your objective could be fat burning. Your objective could be building stamina. Your objectives could be going for speed. You want to be very fast. It could be able to take pain for a longer period of time. And that's what we call lactic tolerance, or that's what we call anaerobic tolerance. So there's benefit in understanding this heart rate concept. I hope it doesn't sound too technical for everyone, but the truth is there's just too many gadgets out there. And we can use a heart rate monitor, we can use a blood pressure. There's so, even a handphone, sometimes we can check our heart rate as well. So I strongly encourage everyone to train smart. Don't go by feel, don't go by sweat, go by heart rate. Right? So different heart rate gives you different benefit. Okay, so there's a question here. What does it mean when the pulse or wrist isn't strong, as my friend no as my no fitness friend, having a resting heart rate of average 45 to 50 and with and fit with daily exercise. All right, so again, you can I have a next slide that suggests how you can check your resting heart rate. But the thing is, the fitter you are, your heart rate will drop. But do take note, but there are some people that may be taking medication. Medication can affect your resting heart rate as well. All right, so later there's a suggestion on resting heart rate as well. But let's look at target heart rate first. So we know that target heart rate, right, is about 220 minus your age, or if you are somebody very healthy or you have a gym instructor around, check your resting heart rate by running on a treadmill and see how high you go. Right, but it's not safe. Do take note of that. You don't want to run until you collapse. Right. And that's what they do for ECG as well. They make you run until you say, okay, enough. Right. So that's to check your maximum heart rate. Once you know your maximum heart rate, then you can take, for example, if you want fat burning 50 to 70%, for example, or 50 to 60%, then you take 50% times my age, 50 years old, so times 170, and then 60% times 170. So you should be exercising in this heart rate, 85 to 102. And that is for burning fats. That's fat burning zone. Right. So some watches, you can even set the limit. If you run too fast, your heart rate go above 102, it will beep you. Then you run slower. But if you run too slow, below 85, it will beep you. Then you run faster. So it keeps you within your objective of fat burning. And that's what I do. So for my run, I have fat burning zone, I have a carbo burning zone, I have got my interval run as well. And I look at my pace and my heart rate. But because that's the best indication whether you're training the right intensity, whether you are targeting your objective or not. Right. And then of course the more another formula would be, they call it a covenant formula. And the reason for that is because if you are just using your max heart rate, it may not be a good indication. So some formula will incorporate your resting heart rate. All right, so you can look at this formula, take a screenshot of it. I'm mindful of time, so I don't want to dwell too much into this. All right, because there's a lot of good information after this. Let's look at this question. Please give the fat burning formula. Let's go into it now. Okay, very good question. In fact, we're going to talk about this too, and it's so important to understand. But before we go into that, your resting heart rate again, best time to take is in the morning when you wake up. All right, when you wake up, the best time, because once you get into work, your heart rate may increase. Right, and then of course, before taking, ensure you have a good night's sleep, and then stay calm. Stress and emotional no state will also affect your heart rate. So I strongly encourage everyone to know your resting heart rate. Take it over a period of time. Best time in the morning. Sometimes, certain week you may feel very stressed out because month end you need to do report. So avoid those periods, right? So take it and know what's your resting heart rate. Okay. Okay, there's a quick question, tummy fat. Okay, again, when you exercise, there's no such thing as a target exercise to target on certain part. your body will use fats from different part of your body. So when they sell gadgets, they say, oh, target fat burning for certain area. I personally don't encourage that, right? Because your body will tap fats from different part of your body, right? I have a slide on that. Be patient, we are going to that. Yeah, so this is the slide that I mentioned earlier. It's the best way to tell layman how to gauge their intensity, how you feel, can breathe, can talk, can sing, and then about sweat. So this is the one I thought it's not exactly a good indication. You you don't break out in sweat unless it's hot and humid. You develop a sweat after 10 minutes. So sweat is not an indication at all, right? Because different people have different sweat rate. But I believe this is from the health hub. It's a good way to at least know, oh, when I'm running and I can still be talking to my friend, that is a moderate zone, right? So this only tell us what is light, moderate, and vigorous. But what is really important is to know your heart rate. I'm quite sure everyone will see this slide in the gym or anywhere you go. Polar heart rate, Garmin heart rate. There's so many they come up with different zones, and it's so important to talk about it. All right. Wow, there's a lot of questions how to reduce sports injury. Yes, there are exercise that are not weight bearing. So there are options like swimming, elliptical machine, for example. We'll talk about that later. All right. So in medication, yes, medication can affect your heart rate. So do check with your doctor. Sometimes when you take medication, it will elevate. Right. So there are options, you don't have to take your heart rate right after you take medication or after certain hours. But do check with your doctor. Good question. Medication does affect your heart rate. But let's look into this again, heart rate zone. So I strongly encourage everyone to understand when you exercise. Are you burning fats? Are you burning carbo? Are you burning your muscle protein? Right. So if you look at zone 1 and zone 2, right? So different textbook will have uh different zone. So you check. Some people say heart fat burning starts from 50 to 70, but some people say 60 to 75. It's around there. Okay, it really fluctuates depending on um different gadget also give you different heart rate. But we know that the first source of energy is your fuel. Your first fuel is fat burning. At very low heart rate, you burn fats. So there was a question there. So if you want to be burning fat, then you shouldn't be exercising at 70 and above of your maximum heart rate. So that's now we learn how to count, and that's the reason for that. Because when you are exercising at a higher intensity, what this means is you are burning more carbohydrates. So I give you an example. You go swimming, for example. When you go swimming, swimming is quite an intense activity. Swimming is not fat burning unless you are very efficient in your stroke. Swimming usually burns carbohydrates, right? So it's a very typical carbohydrate activity. And after swimming, usually because you're burning a lot of carbo, you get hungry, right? So it's not about having a good swim and then have a good meal after that. Input and output, right? So carbo, swimming burns a lot of carbo, and when you burn a lot of carbo, you get hungry easily as well, right? So do take note, people who are going for exercise classes, it's also very carbo intense, right? And then after that, usually you get hungry. But some people will even get wobbly, we call it bong because they're burning a lot of carbohydrates and they get hungry. They are hungry for more carbohydrates, more energy, right? So do take note of that, carbo burning. And then, of course, the next one would be your um, protein muscle. So if you look at zone 1 to zone 3 or even zone 4, they are all aerobic exercise. Oxygen come into your body and then you burn fats, you burn carbohydrates, right? But zone 9 is where you're out of oxygen. You cannot breathe. So you're short of oxygen. So that's anaerobic activity. And anaerobic activity, you usually get lactic. You start to feel very hot, it's burning. That's lactic acid. But all different zones work on different things. Zone 1 and zone 2, fat burning. Zone 3 and zone 4, carbo burning, build up your stamina. Zone 5, for example, lactic tolerance, improve your lactic tolerance, improve the amount of lactic your body can take before you bomb before you cannot take it anymore, before you stop a marathon, for example. So every one of them has got its benefit. All right. So, and here I like to highlight different people have got different um, fitness level. So your fitness will improve over time. Your maximum heart rate may improve over time. So it doesn't mean that it's a fixed formula for you, right? Because as your fitness level improve, your different zone may also adjust. For example, when during my peak period, my zone 2 can be very fast, while my zone 2 heart rate is very low. But at that low heart rate, I can also be going very fast, very intense, for example. So there's a question here. What about brisk walking? Brisk walking for most individual, brisk walking is really a good fat burning activity, right? Because it's lower intensity, right? But the trick is lower intensity. It also means that you need to do it for a longer period of time. Okay. Now, this slide just show the different gadgets will suggest different zone. So earlier you have seen there's zone 1 to zone 5. This is according to the American College of Sports Medicine. And inside the gym, you will see this chart. Like, you will see this chart. But I put this because, there are people who may get very confused. HPV also suggests about light intensity, moderate intensity, vigorous intensity. Then later when I buy my Garmin watch, my Garmin tell me there's zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. And then now when I use Fitbit, it tells me there is a peak zone, carbo zone, and fat burning zone. So there's a lot of confusion. But do take note, basically it all evolves around the 3 zones: fat burning zone, carbo burning zone, and protein muscle burning zone. And the zone may change, right? And it's just maybe 5% or at most, 5 to 10%, right? Some may suggest 5 to 10%. What about cycling? What is the target for this exercise? Okay, so cycling is a very good activity, provided you do it safely, because we know there are people who just can be quite dangerous on the road. Cycling is not weight bearing. That means you are not loading on your knees. You are seated, but it still build up your cardio fitness, right? So that's a good question. Cycling is a good option, and if you're just starting out, it's always good to explore the park connectors as well, right? And also just caution, at night it's good to use lights as well, and don't shine your light up, right? Sometimes when I'm running, I see cyclists coming, can blind my eyes. It's always good to have the light pointed down, right? So cycling is a good activity for your cardio because it's not weight bearing. As such, it won't injure your knees, for example. Okay. Now, this is the very important slide that all of us has been talking about. We want to know where to burn fats. I like burning fats as well. So again, different watch, different chart will tell you about the different zone. But very easy to remember, the first source, the second source, at very low heart rate, the first source of energy your body uses is fats. And there's no such thing as sports reduction. There's, people come up with this term, spot reduction. There's no such thing as spot reduction, right? Your body will take fats from different part of your body, right? There's no such thing as exercise just to target certain fats. Your body use fats from different parts of your body, right? So the first source is fats. Fats will be oxygen burns fats. Fats will be transformed into your ATP, your androgen transphosphate. That's your energy, and it gives you your fuel. And then when you start to increase your intensity, when your heart rate increase, it will burn more carbohydrates. So oxygen burns carbohydrates. Carbohydrates will give you your primary source, your secondary source, which is your glucose and your glycogen, and it eventually will give you your ATP, your energy, androgen transphosphate. So that's the second source. So first source, fat. Second source, carbohydrate. And then once you go into an intensity where you no longer have enough oxygen, that means you're out of breath, no oxygen. Or for some, they even hold their breath, like Joseph Schooling. That's when they have no oxygen. Without oxygen, you can't burn fats, you can't burn carbohydrates. You go into your anaerobic activity. your anaerobic, not enough oxygen, it will start to tap on your muscle for instant energy. And when it does that, you start to build up lactate. You start to feel like burning like that, my leg cannot tahan, was so hot. That's called lactate tolerance. Um, we are at the anaerobic state. So to sum it up, fat burning, of course, is to burn your fats, to use your fats efficiently as the first source of fuel. But when your intensity increase, you start to burn carbohydrates. That's your second source, which is your third and your fourth zone, for example, right? And do take note, when you burn carbohydrates, you tend to get hungry, right? And after a good activity, try not to have a good meal lah. I know you want to replenish with electrolytes. You want to replenish your muscle with protein, but don't overdo it. Input equal to output, right? If you are taking more, then you won't reap the benefit from your exercise, right? So second source is carbohydrate. Then the third source is your protein muscle. And that's the point I made earlier about the 36 years old gentleman. The 36 years old gentleman refused to do any cardio activity because he says that a lot of men will say that no, we are taking weights, we shouldn't be running because when we run, we burn the muscle. True, because we know point 3 says that if you exercise, you'll burn into your protein. Protein is your muscle. True, but nobody asked them to run to that intensity. You can be running to build up your cardio fitness by burning fat, by burning carbohydrates. We are not asking you to run to the point where you will burn your muscle, right? So cardio is important, be it whether you are just starting off or you are a bodybuilder, for example, it's important. But is there any exercise guideline type of exercise? Yes, there are, according to the American College of Sports Medicine, right? And also HPB suggests 150 hours, right, a week, and 10,000 steps, for example. But according to the American College of Sports Medicine, time, they say 30 minutes a day, right? So you can look under American College of Sports Medicine. It's called FITT, frequency, about three to five times a week, right? I, intensity, 60% or more of your maximum heart rate. Types of exercise, will be cardiovascular exercise, and the other T is time. The time is 30 minutes, right? Okay, so check out for American College of Sports Medicine, and it will tell you about FITT principle: frequency, intensity, type of exercise, and time. All right. Okay. Now where are we? Okay, so these are the three zones. Now this slide will convince everyone that because we talk about your heart rate, right? First zone, fat burning. Second zone, carbohydrate. Then the third one is anaerobic, your muscle. But if you look at this slide, you will notice that when you increase your intensity, the use of fats is no longer there. You will start to use more carbohydrates. So the first slide here, the first graph shows that when you increase your intensity to meet, you start to use very little fat. In fact, you're not burning fats anymore. Your fats start to get lower and lower, and you start to use more carbohydrate. And what this means is you start to get hungry as well. All right. And if you are not loading enough, you're not eating enough food, you may not be able to sustain the activity as well. Right. So as such, sometimes people before exercising, they will carbo load, or they will make sure they eat enough. Because if they don't eat enough and they engage in activity, they may faint. Right. So there are people who just faint because it could be the heat, it could be they have not eaten enough when they exercise. Right. So this slide tells you, yes, if you are going for light activity, it's fine because your body will be using fats. But if you start to increase your intensity, your body will be using carbohydrate, and you have not eaten breakfast before an activity or eaten enough, you may just faint or you may bomb, for example. Also, that's the reason for that. All right. And then the second slide also show the crossover. But the reason why I put here is because, again, different studies that would suggest different crossover point. Some will suggest, at 50% you start to burn more carbohydrate. Some will suggest at 60% you start to burn more carbohydrate. The last one even suggests based on your VO2 max. Right. So I hope this tells us to, when we exercise, try to understand Low heart rate means burn fats. Increased heart rate means burn carbohydrates. And why do I need to go into carbohydrates? Because I want to have good stamina as well. Why do I need to go into the last zone? Because I want to be able to endure pain. I increase my lactic tolerance. That means I can go longer, for example. So each has got its benefit. All right. Now let's look at, I'm mindful of time. So these are some examples. We have come to the end, but these are some of the examples, right, of how you can incorporate into your daily life. Stop one bus stop and walk to work. Park your car at the far end. Take the steps. Yeah, so going up the step is good, but coming down is not as good for your knees. I remember when I was training, I used to climb up the block and then walk down. Take the lift down, climb up and walk, take the lift down. Right, walk to your fellow colleagues' station, for example, instead of messaging them, going for lunchtime walk. So these are some examples you can incorporate into your daily life. Okay, and of course, there's a lot of activity as well, right? Increase the number of steps. The World Health Organization also says that it's important to exercise as it helps in your mental health as well. Okay, and there's a question: does it mean best option to do exercise and target at different burning? Yes, it's true. So when you exercise, you do not just want to work out in your fat burning zone. It's important to incorporate your carbo burning zone, for example, and then your muscle. I give you a quick example. So for example, if you are exercising, then a good exercise will involve, for example, if you're running a 2 kilometer, right? The first kilometer, you go slow and steady. The second kilometer, you could incorporate a short dash, and then you relax, and then you walk, you run slow again, and then the short dash again. So that would means that if you're running in a fat burning zone, but then at certain point you push yourself just to do that carbo, and then at certain point you push yourself just to go into that lactic zone. That's a good example of variety. So it's a very good question about variety. It's the same when you go for exercise class in the gym. The instructor will just go steady, burn. In fact, the exercise class in the gym is all about carbo burning, because there's no chance in that 1 hour the instructor is going to say, okay, we are just going to burn fat today. We are going to come in the class and do very slowly and low intensity. They won't do that. Most of the classes are carbo burning zone and lactic burning zone. And what this means is, over time, your stamina will be very good. Over time, your muscle will be very toned. Over time, you can take pain very long, but you may not necessarily be burning as much fats. Right. So what this means is, fats is at low heart rate, longer duration. Okay. What are the light exercises and stretching? Yes, anything that, example, stretching, we can do after taking. What are the light exercises? Yes, you can do that. Right. After taking a COVID vaccination, what this means is you are introducing a fake vector into your body, and your immune system suddenly say, hey, there's something that enters my body. I need to build the right antibodies. So your body is working very hard to build the right soldier. Right. So light stretches, all these are still fine. Right. It's still okay to do that. Right. Don't we need to burn fat? Yes, we have a lot of fat. It's so easily, for a 50 years old, if I don't engage in exercise, my six app will very naturally become a family pack quite easily. But so it's important, it's only natural. What we eat that is not burned will eventually become fat. So we have a lot of excess fat in different parts of our body. So it's really to target when we exercise. It's not just about burning fats, but burning carbo, burning lactic tolerance. That's why today we talk about heart rate. Understanding heart rate, understanding the different source of fuel, and how we can exercise objectively, how we can be smart in our training to work different part of our body, to look at different source of energy that we burn, to look at the different heart rate that we use. All right. So I'm very mindful of time. Apologize, we overshot a bit. But eating well, I'm not a nutritionist by training. But if you look at the good job from Health Promotion Board, less salt, less sugar. The key thing is really about less salt, less sugar. Your trans fat, for example, your saturated fat example. Trans fat, saturated fat will increase your LDL. Now it comes to my head, is lipoprotein, right? LDL is lipoprotein, and HDL is a high intensity lipoprotein, right? So it really affects your LDL and HDL and your triglyceride. So I mentioned at the start of the session, I monitor 3 times this year my basic health screening just to make sure my cholesterol is okay. And if it's not okay, what are some of the things I can do to help? Right? For example, exercise. For example, the food I take, for example. All right. So you are what you eat. Right. So it's important to look at this healthy plate, more vegetable, more fruits, for example. Because at the end of the day, it's for us to build up our immune system as well, to live a healthy lifestyle. If we go anaerobic, do we burn muscles and lose muscle mass? Yes, that's a good question. When we go into anaerobic, it tap into our muscle for instant energy. In a way, it's right to put it that you are burning muscle. But after a good session, you will also want to fuel your muscle. Fuel your muscle means feed it because you stress it a lot. You need to fuel it. Fuel it. Some people will drink protein shake, and some drinks may even come with electrolytes, protein, and carbohydrates. Right. So you notice, as a sports person, usually we look for electrolytes, right, to fuel our body, to replenish our body. Then we have protein to fuel our muscle because we have been eating up. We've pamper it by fueling it. And then carbohydrates are source of energy. So it's important to take note of that. We should eat up. So exercise, I just answered the question, right? So after exercise, it's always to fuel our body, right? For protein, it could be from the food you take. Fish, for example, is a good source of protein, right? So electrolytes, if you are sweating a lot, it's good to replenish your body as well. Okay, right. So let's talk less sugar, trans fats, and whole grain. Whole grain is very important, right? Because it has got a lot of health benefits due to its rich nutritional content, right? So it really helps in reducing heart diseases as well. So whole grain is a good option, right? Last 2 slides, I overshot quite a bit. So nutrition, I think, is important to look at this. Um, on sugar, because we know sugar have a lot of negative effect on both your physical and mental health, right? So it helps, in terms of weight gain. Sugary drink will make it, excess sugary drink may lead to obesity, and then health impact as well, because there's a risk of heart disease from sugar as well. It may elevate your blood pressure, inflammation as well, increase your triglyceride as well, sugar. All right. And then there's also risk of cancer as well, because we know some cancer cells they thrive on sugar. Okay. And of course, mentally, it also affects our mood as well, because sugar will, and actually, there's still a lot of studies, because some people still think that chocolate will help to also, give you that good hormones, for example, but it will elevate your mood, right? So they call it mood swing, right? So again, sugar is not a good thing. Okay. Isn't isotonic drink yes, isotonic yes, no, isotonic drink don't contain a lot of sodium. Isotonic drink give you back the sodium that you require. So I take sodium pill. Can you imagine, we say less salt, less sugar, but I'm taking sodium pill because I perspire quite a lot when I cycle. So rest assured that isotonic, they have got the right formula, the right contain of sodium. And salt is important when you exercise, right? But other than that, yeah, we shouldn't be consuming salt. Okay. Yes. So this is my last slide. There are a lot of activity out there, and you notice that SNEF, we conduct quite a lot of free workshop, and then we also engage our partners to help us conduct workshop for workplaces. But apart from this workshop, there are also programs that is specific for your organization. So if you are HR or decision maker, I strongly encourage you to scan the QR code, participate in some of these events. It can be general health, it can be talks on physical activity, nutrition, mental health, ergonomics. There's so many topics, and HPB has curated this program for workplaces. But I noticed that not many workplaces are still very dynamic in subscribing to this program. Right. All right. So there's a question about cramp. cramp sometimes can be associated with salt as well, right? If you lose a lot of salt, sometimes you can get cramp as well. So you may want to look at your sodium input as well during activity. But it really depends how you get the cramp. Is your cramp from not doing warm up, or do you get the cramp after a certain, after doing your activity for a while? There's many reasons for cramp. Okay, yeah. So that's all we have today. So thank you everyone for participating. And if you have any question, actually, can we type my email there? You can email me separately. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I will just write my email. And if you have any question, you can always drop me an email.
Okay, thank you, Jerry, for sharing with us on how age is not a barrier to achieve one's health goals. So I hope everyone have found this session to be informative and useful. So if there are no more questions, then thank you everyone for coming to this virtual session. We hope that you have enjoyed and benefited from the sharing of our speaker. And we hope to see you in our upcoming sessions as well. So with that, we actually have a virtual physical activity session on Zumba fitness this evening as well. So if you're able to join us, do join us for that session as well. All right. So I'll be closing this Zoom meeting soon.
Any question, anyone? Otherwise, thank you everyone.
Okay, I'll be closing this Zoom meeting now. Thank you and have a good day, everyone. Thank you.